Imagine a world where love is a recipe and passion is a potion. But what if the ultimate aphrodisiac came with a deadly cost? Welcome to ReddFic, where the darkest secrets are brewed. Our first story. Love potions should have never been made in the first place, she said. The pink hair and singed gloves were enough of a giveaway that she was a potion master. The sign over the shop window just helped. Don't know who figured out that recipe, but they should have been disbarred for suggesting it. I had several questions at that part, the first of which was whether random potion masters had a bar, but that wasn't the point right now. I don't think you get... Look, I don't care how much you, or your friend, I could hear the air quotes on that, think that you're meant to be, and that the other person needs to figure it out. It's gross. Well, just right. At minimum, the application would be sexual harassment, and it probably escalates to assault once they've drank it, considering, it's a love potion. Just because it makes them artificially love you. Understood. And when they love you, they're going to want to. Got it, thanks. I held up a finger to stop them, and they almost looked put out. Fair enough, they had momentum. Are you done? Don't think so, she said as she pulled a strange plant out of a drawer and started cutting off the roots. You're still here. I told you I'm not going to use the love potion on anyone else. Yeah, your friend is. She pushed the shavings off the cutting board and into a cauldron. Look, I don't care if you were just sent here for pickup. Hell, maybe you really didn't think about the implications of your friend asking, but... She stabbed her knife into the cutting board, which couldn't be good for it. You can go either way. Look, She whistled to cut me off and motioned toward the door. The potion is for me. You can even feed it to me if you want. As long as we get the blindfold first. I watched her guard slip away, her shoulders untensed. She lowered the finger pointing toward the door. Her brow unfurrowed from fury and then refurrowed from confusion. What? I need the love potion for me. Why would you need a love potion for... Because I don't know why I don't love them anymore. It was my turn to cut her off. They're as great as they've ever been, and my dumbass is here just slipping out of love every day. I can't look at them the same anymore, and I can't figure out why so. It felt strange vocalizing it. I hadn't told anyone other than my diary. You've got magic there. Help me fix it. The confusion on her face faded into sympathy, and she stared at the tile. After a moment, the potion maker shook her head. My heart hadn't felt full lately, but I felt it break. Now listen, our second story. It's for me. I'm the one who will drink it. I'm not trying to force. I don't want that. The young man shifts uncomfortably, his gaze wandering around and not settling on anything. I frown. Not a creep after all then. Still, messing around with love potions is a monumentally bad idea. I breathe in deeply and let out a sigh before asking why. The story comes out slowly, the man stumbling over his words. He's the firstborn, the heir to his family, and thus obligated to be married to a wife his parents deem appropriate for his station. A marriage born not out of love, but political maneuvering. He has met his betrothed only once, with her parents sitting at her sides. Her parents had spoken with his parents about flower arrangements and catering and guests lists and many other things that were related to the upcoming wedding. His betrothed had remained silent. So had he. He had felt too uncomfortable to say anything, and the young woman had spent the entire time gazing downwards. She was beautiful, he said, but seemed more like a statue than a living being. But if he drank a love potion first, he wouldn't feel anxious anymore. He wouldn't somehow mess up and cause shame to his family. He'd love her wholeheartedly. Forever. I'd like to help somehow. Really? But still. Love potions are dangerous things. Perhaps I can find an alternative? Something that won't shatter his free will and put his soon-to-be wife at the center of his universe? I tell him to come back in a week. I need to think, to research, to plan. Even if I won't make him a love potion, maybe I can make him something else. It takes all of 2 days for me to lose hope. Every possible alternative to love potions I can find is objectionable. Even if free will doesn't get eroded, there's always something else. One potion causes severe physical deformities. Another is safe to use but uses extremely rare ingredients whose possession will result in the death penalty. As I'm reading a page describing a potion whose side effects include severe migraines and infertility, the tinkling sound of the door chime can be heard. A new customer. Good. I need a break from staring at musty books with questionable content. I look up to see two women have entered. A young lady in a finely embroidered dress with a worried look on her face, accompanied by an older, stern-looking woman. A noble woman and her chaperone then. Not my usual clientele. My shop is located in a somewhat less fancy part of town. The chaperone claps her hands behind her back and turns away, somehow oddly determined to study the contents of the bookshelf closest by the entrance, politely providing her charge with some modicum of privacy. The young woman nervously approaches the desk, quietly informing of a love potion for herself. A suspicious feeling is niggling in the back of my head. The woman is so nervous she can barely speak. Drawing the story from her is almost as hard as brushing the teeth of a recalcitrant baby dragon. But eventually, her tale unfolds before me in a distinctly familiar way. An arranged marriage. A soon-to-be husband met only once, never spoken with. A fear of disappointing her parents if she were to act out. I'm hardly paying attention to her by the time she is done talking. I'm too caught up in my thoughts considering the possibilities. Slowly the answer comes to me, blooming in my mind like a flower unfurling its petals to bask in the sun. I know what to tell her. I'm afraid I can't sell you a love potion. Moral objections, you see, but there's something else I can give you that I think might suit your needs. I describe the effects of this other potion to her. The effects last only for 3 months after ingestion, I say. It will give her more confidence in her new relationship and make her more amenable to her future man. However, it doesn't actually alter the amount of free will, so the effects are very subtle. She'll need to put her own effort in to make the whole thing work. Without it, the potion will simply fail. It's a potion so weak that I can't even in good conscience accept payment for it. I will provide the potion to her for free. Even with this terribly underwhelming description, the woman immediately accepts, eager to improve her situation. After some minor inquiries into possible allergies she may have, she has none. I inform her the potion will be available for pickup in 2 hours' time. As soon as the shop is empty again, I put a do not disturb sign on the door. I draw up a letter and prod the tiny male dragon sleeping in the corner awake. He takes his time waking up, grumbling all the while, but obligingly takes the envelope in his claws when I hand it to him. After his departure, I start measuring ingredients. Making the potion doesn't take very long, and before I know it, I'm applying chilling charms on several bottles standing on my workspace. The male dragon returns soon afterwards, clutching an answer to my letter in his claws. Excellent. Exactly 2 hours after they had left, the young woman and her chaperone stop by again. I recommend drinking the potion immediately, I tell her. She takes the bottle with trembling hands, and after a moment of deliberation, chugs the whole thing in a rather unladylike fashion. It tastes like raspberries, she murmurs afterwards. I smile at her and wish her luck with her marriage. The woman nervously flitters out the door, followed by her ever-calm chaperone. 3 hours after that, it's almost closing time, in fact, the man from yesterday enters my shop, having received my summons earlier. He is relieved at hearing I have a possible solution, and accepts the potion I give him even after hearing how weak it is. It's still better than nothing, right? He asks, and drinks from the bottle with small sips. He still looks anxious when he leaves, but this time he has a small, hopeful smile on his face as well. Life goes on. A month passes by, and a marriage takes place between two noble families. Gossip and later official news spreads among society. Despite being an arranged political marriage, the groom and bride are said to love and adore each other very much. It's 6 months after the wedding, almost winter, when I receive the letters from the newlyweds, individually thanking me for the potion I had given them. They had both been pleased to discover that their new partner was actually a wonderful person. They had fallen in love with each other easily. While I am ever grateful for your aid, I must confess, it probably would have been fine even without your potion. One of the letters reads with elegant pen strokes on flower-scented paper. I scratch my little male dragon under his chin and sip from a bottle, putting the letter down. As I look up, I notice a small boy looking up at me curiously. The local elementary school has just let out, and there is a gaggle of young children poking around the shop, mostly around the shelves with magical candy. "Is that a magical potion?" he asks, pointing at the bottle I just drank from. Identical to the bottles I had handed out more than half a year ago. I let out a small laugh. "Oh, it's not a magical potion. Just raspberry lemonade. Sure tastes good though." When asked, I share some lemonade with the kid and his friends, who inform me, very seriously, that even if the lemonade doesn't contain magic, it still tastes magical. And it does. Especially now. Now listen. Our third story. I'm sorry, what? The wiry old alchemist removed his telescope goggles. "It's for May." "I'm not sure I understand, young lady. Why would you do this to yourself? You'd be sacrificing your thoughts, your own free will. That's better than the alternative." She slipped more gold onto the countertop, as if that would change his mind. As her hand slipped back into her sleeve, the alchemist saw the thin band of bronze on her wrist. "A wedding cuff." He sighed. "Was it your father's idea or your mother's?" "My grandmother's," she said softly. "Your betrothed, is he a tyrant? A drunk?" "I don't know, we've hardly spoken." She dipped her head like a mourning crane. Though all of her movements had that refined grace so treasured among the ladies of the courts, the alchemist knew at once that this was the gesture she'd practiced the most. We had tea together only once, and with great supervision. He seemed accommodating, but he's not the man I chose. He never will be. Her face had returned to its cultivated placidity. If he'd not heard her words, he'd never have guessed at the pain that hid behind those eyes. "Give me one moment." The alchemist bowed back into his workshop. Minutes later, he returned to the shop front, a jade vial in either hand. "I will give these to you on one condition." She stiffened imperceptibly and approached the counter. "You may leave here with this potion, but only if you drink this one first." "What is the other one?" "They are both the same." "I see." She hovered in thought. "I accept your condition." The alchemist drew back when she reached. "First, close your eyes." He pressed the vial into her hand once her eyes were tightly sealed. She brought the vial to her lips, paused, then tipped it back, not even flinching at the taste. "Now, open your eyes." The vial shattered on the floor. How? She couldn't complete the thought, not while facing what she now saw in the mirror. Something sparked in her eyes, and she brought one hand to her lips to cover the gasp that was about to escape them. What had long been chiseled away from her now came flooding back. Standing from where he'd crouched behind the counter, the alchemist set the mirror in her hands. For a long moment they said nothing. The alchemist just watched as the woman's porcelain face lifted into a smile. "Thank you. Thank you." The mirror hit the countertop, and she was out of the shop door before the alchemist could even reply. He smiled and took the second vial from where she'd left it. "Now listen, our fourth story." "What? By the suns, are you another one of those?" The alchemist's fury gave way to exasperation and an expression of sympathy. "Love potions are one way, and it goes from the creator to the target. You cannot make yourself love somebody." The old woman rested her hands on her hips. "The potion needs to be attuned to the soul of the beloved in order for it to work, and not just give the drinker a new addiction to dice or whatever. Funny how the rape potion requires consent from the maker, huh?" She muttered darkly. I rolled my eyes again. "Not that either. Is that actually a thing that happens often?" I asked, somewhat concernedly. "Surprisingly, yes. You have no idea the number of young women who wanted to fulfill expectations or whatever. That's fucked up, but I'll let it pass. Anyway, I wanted to drink it for, self-love." It felt a bit embarrassing to vocalize, but hey, I was buying a borderline forbidden potion for this. My shame had gone out of the window. Self-doubt had been making my decision-making very rocky lately, to the point that I feel I might get demoted if I screwed up more. Is that, something that can work? So you are one of those, huh? The woman broke into fits of laughter to my embarrassment and frustration before waving her hand. Sorry, I shouldn't have laughed. Your concern is absolutely valid. I take it that my idea is about to implode catastrophically then. I sighed. God, I really was just the dumbest. Don't take it personally, you couldn't have known. The alchemist straightened herself up. It's just, you see, love potions are already strong enough to make a person absolutely adore a stranger, right? Now, what do you think would happen if the target is not a stranger, but someone they know deeply and for a long period of time, whose companionship is constant and… Oh. Yeah, it was suggested by some to be the actual imagery origin of the Ouroboros as well. She chuckled. Also, some hypothesize that it is the main difference between the normal gods and solipsist gods, although I cannot begin to fathom the alchemy to make a potion that can impact a god. But I digress. I put away the mental image of my spine arching up to the point of near breaking at the Ouroboros comparison, with an internal shudder that made it to the surface. I see then. A shame. Sorry for wasting your time. Don't be. I love to hate rant about love potions. She waved me off. I paused for a moment. Wait, I'd like to come back to something earlier. You said that undirected love potions can lead to an addiction to dice. What do you mean by that? Curiosity flickered across the wizened woman's face. What do you have in mind? Shortly after the events above, love potions find themselves a new niche with a heavily modified version to provide temporary love of dice games for those who wants to get into Dungeons and Drakes with their friends. It expanded to become a socializing potion where individuals drink them to get genuinely interested in a certain hobby or interest, and found themselves a remarkable market. Then the protagonist of our story got married to a 2 tall D20 and started calling it mommy. Similar incidents swiftly forced the market back to the underground. As for the protagonist's self-esteem, he now entrusted his every decision to the roles of his mommy and have lost the capacity to make a decision without a dice in the immediate vicinity. Moral of the story: don't mess with love potions. Now listen, our fifth story. The woman looked haggard, tired and plainly miserable as she stumbled into the shop of the potion maker. Her clothes were stained by unspecified brown substances. In her breast area, an indistinct wet spot was growing. I need your help. The potion maker looked up at her and tried to remain professional. What can I do for you? The woman looked at him and whispered, I need a love potion. It is very important. The potion maker stared at her in disbelief. You are aware that the use of love potions is both illegal and deeply morally gross? She nodded. Generally, yes, but not in this case, please. The potion maker stepped on a button to call the authorities, but had to keep the crazed person talking. Why do you think your own circumstances are different? Please tell me. She made a vague gesture. I need it for myself. He nodded, expecting a story like that. Many people claimed it was for them when it very much was not. Can you tell me more? There is someone in my life who I want to love, who I want to feel close to, but I just cannot, and I need to mind control myself into loving this person. It is absolutely paramount, she said. Can you tell me why that is the case? He asked. She whispered almost inaudibly, because that person is my child. He responded in shock. Your child. She motioned at him to quiet down. I have birthed the bugger 5 days ago. I know that I should feel smitten and in love, but I don't. I look at this grub and all I can think of is, I ruined my body and mind for that screaming mess of disappointment. The potion maker gulped. He never expected this situation. He was unsure what to do and tried to keep her talking while he mentally tried to go through his training about what to do. That was when, all of a sudden, rope snaked around the woman, and moments later a crown agent turned visible. The woman looked at him and, in resignation, sagged even more than before. I guess I deserve it, she murmured. The crown agent asked for statements and, as he heard what this was supposed to be used for, turned sheet while. You really should not have called us. You should have called for a healer instead. Now listen, our sixth story. I want to love myself, she said to the alchemist, with all the seriousness she could muster in her tone. The alchemist paused in his brewing, settling down the dried mandrake root that he was about to throw into the pot. He finally looked at the girl, eyeing her with his fox-like eyes. And why do you think a love potion can help? Do you know what it's like to look at a mirror and see someone you despise so much every single day? The alchemist silently watched her nails dig into the grain of wood. He turned his back to the girl and continued his work. He plopped the mandrake root into the cauldron before asking, "No, but when did it start?" "I've always been a romantic. I fell in love too many times to count. The last one hurt so bad that it made me question, what went wrong?" She gazed at Alchemist doing his work, watching the fire brighten as he fed it. Why all of them went wrong? 3 of them left for someone prettier. 2 had to end for they were engaged. 1 died in a hunt, and the last one left for no reason. Maybe I'm cursed by the gods to not know love. And you need to love yourself because? The alchemist asked. It's a way to actually know love before I go. The alchemist stopped and finally paid attention to the girl. She looked like in her late teens, silky hair, doe but tired eyes, wearing a muted blue dress. Her statement made his voice waver. You're too young to go, child. But I'll die like Narcissus, to love someone till death. I long for that feeling, you know. At least I'll be happy in my last moments being with someone that I love. Now you sound insane and you contradict yourself. He turned his back on her, grabbing a dried squid from a shelf. That's why I need the potion. Narcissus did not love himself, he said as he cleaved the squid with such force to splinter the counter. He shook the squid, freeing it from splinters before flinging it to the pot. He was obsessed with himself. He ranted, "Idiot starved himself just because he doesn't want to lose sight of his face." He admired himself to death. He deluded himself into kissing his own pretty face on the surface of the water, finally ending himself by drowning. I will not let that occur again. I will not let that occur. He shifted his glare towards the silent girl. She looked down at the counter, her heart heavy. Then a red glint caught her attention. It was the man's ring, a bright red gem sitting on its crown. That sounded too personal, as if you were there. That story is just a myth. The man noticed her eyeing his ring and he knew what she meant. Please believe me, child. You don't want a love potion. It will do you more harm than good. Then what do you suggest I do? The alchemist was silent. He took a hanging herb and placed it in the pot. And as he stirred, he finally answered, there is always pain in love, and there is always love in pain. And I know you never hated yourself. You're just finding a reason why they left you. He took 2 bowls from below the counter and poured some of the pot's contents on them. Here, this will help clear your mind. The girl sniffed the bowl and licked her lips. You made a potion? Potion? No, this is squid drake stew. It's dinner, he said before munching on a chewy squid tentacle. Although the mandrake does help with rational thinking. She took a sip from the bowl and felt her mind calm down. All those relationships don't matter right now. The kick from the mandrake root stirred her consciousness into one thought. She opened her eyes, never realizing she closed them. It's warm. It's soup. Of course it's warm. No, I mean what I'm feeling right now. It's warm. She let out a chuckle. I was acting stupid, wasn't I? Obviously. The alchemist continued enjoying his meal. I've never felt like this before, thank you. Just enjoy your meal, child. A minute of silence passed by before she asked a question. You knew Narcissus, didn't you? The alchemist paused. He looked at his ring before looking at the girl. You're both alike, both stupid and smart. The love potion may have worn off, but the thrill of the story remains. So which story do you think is the most captivating? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to stay ahead of the curve, subscribe to ReddFic for regular doses of drama, mystery, and intrigue. Don't miss out on our next video where the secrets are darker and the twists are tighter. Hit that notification bell, give a like, and share with your friends and get ready to have your mind blown again and again. Remember, when it comes to Reddit stories, it's always better here on ReddFic.